The story begins with the hero talking about how he desperately wants to live. The first scene opens in the university hospital where the main character is being briefed about his medical condition. The doctor holds his diagnostic records and the patient's name is revealed to be Kim Isac. Unfortunately, Kim has a rare disease that has never been seen before, and as such, the doctor suggests that the illness will likely be named after him. To show how terrible the situation is for Kim, the doctor suddenly starts offering his condolences while he's still alive, and then goes on to reveal that he likely has only half a year to live at this rate. As you can imagine, this is horrible news for the protagonist, but the sad reality is that there's really nothing he can do about it. After his session with the doctor, Kim walks out of the hospital, and even though he's supposed to have about 6 months left to live, he looks as if he's already a dead man walking. As he makes his way through the crowds on the streets, people stop and stare at him, wondering what the hell is wrong with him, and it doesn't take him long to realize that they're all talking about him. He couldn't care less about that right now because he's still shaken by the fact that he'll be dead in half a year. He can't believe it because it's as if everything is going downhill for him just when his life looked like it was finally going great. For as long as he can remember, all he's ever done is live as a diligent worker ant, so the fact that he's just going to die very soon leaves him extremely confused. Kim is so lost in thought that he crosses the road on a red light, and just when he's about to be run over by the incoming vehicles, someone shoves him off the road to the other side. Even after this, Kim still doesn't realize what just happened because all he can't think about is how unfair it is that he only has a few months left on this earth. What makes his dilemma even more tragic is the fact that he got this terrible news on the same day that he finally won the lottery jackpot. Just thinking about this makes him even more desperate to live. He doesn't want to die, and he's ready to take anything else as long as he can live. Kim picks up the lottery ticket and screams in agony as tears run down his face, begging for someone to save him from death. In that moment, he felt like he was ready for any condition that would mean he'd get to stay alive, but he had no idea what fate had in store for him. Kim desperately wanted to stay alive, but he never expected what would follow. It turns out that in order for him to stay alive, he was reincarnated as a monstrous skeleton. He definitely didn't see this coming and also never suggested that he would be okay with such a transformation. Unfortunately, of all the things that he could have reincarnated into, he ended up being a bald skeleton. It's a really bad one for him because he doesn't even think that he can enjoy the best parts of this body. After the reincarnation, Kim finds himself being forced to battle and kill horrifying monsters in another realm. He's equally a terrifying creature now, and this transformation also granted him some really impressive battle skills along with the mastery of swordsmanship. Here, he's determined to kill all of the monsters, and after taking out several of the beasts, he's finally faced with the last one. By killing the last monster, he successfully completes his mission to exterminate the rebellious forces. This is all pretty unexpected for a person who found out he had only months left to live a while back, so how did Kim end up in this situation? Well, it all started after he was reincarnated as a skeleton, an inferior class summon monster which allowed him to evolve into an undead also known as a lick. This reincarnation brought him to another realm where he became recognized as the Undying Sovereign. He brought prosperity to the demon kind, who were on the brink of ruination before he arrived. As such, the demons adore him, which flatters him a lot because even though he's bald, at least he's the great demon king in this realm. The demons shower him with praise, talking about how his name alone sounds great and evil. It's at this point that we discover that Kim actually goes by King Isac in this realm, but it turns out that he's not really a fan of this name. Apparently, he's gotten tired of telling these idiots that his name is Isac since they've refused to get it right. The Demon King sighs in frustration as he laments about how his numbskulls can't even pronounce his name properly. Fortunately, he won't be seeing them for a while because him completing the last mission means that he can now leave this realm. He bids his demon subjects farewell, and they're shocked to hear that their king is leaving. They ask where he is going, and he informs them that he's leaving to go get what he is owed. His final goal is to be able to eat and even feel pain, and this can only happen if he becomes human again. The scene shifts after he bids his demons farewell, and then he makes his way to the divine realm. The celestial beings here are horrified when the Demon King suddenly appears without and starts climbing up the stars to address all of them. He stands before the gods and informs them that he has taken care of all the factions that have been challenging them, and so he's come to remind them of the promise they made to him in exchange for wiping out the threats. Apparently, they had a written contract which states that they would turn him into a human if he completes the task, and now he's come to claim his reward. The gods are shocked that the Demon King was able to complete the task so quickly and find it hard to believe that he took care of all their enemies. They thought that such an assignment would take him at least 500 years to complete, but they didn't know that Kim's determination is his greatest strength. Now, they're all bewildered, trying to figure out what kind of nut job the skeleton standing before them actually is. They don't know what they're supposed to do now because the whole contract was just a scheme that the higher-ups cooked up to make the Demon King their slave for free. They keep whispering about the situation, so Kim informs them that he can actually hear everything they're saying. He is starting to get a little annoyed because he doesn't get why they're dragging this out so much. They had a deal and he's kept his end of the bargain, so all he wants now is his reward so that he can be on his way. He reminds them of the agreement and makes it clear to them that he's done everything they asked for. At this point, the cunning gold-haired god finally responds to him. With a cheeky smile on his face, he reveals that there's one more thing they need from him. Hearing this, the Demon King is furious because he is starting to think that these guys take him for an empty-headed skull or something. He's so annoyed that he can't even hide it, so he snaps at them, asking if they think that he is just some kind of pushover. Just thinking about this leaves him furious, and if he had blood flowing in his body, it would definitely be boiling. For this, he decides that he'll make them pay, not caring whether they're gods or not. With this in mind, he unleashes a huge blast of power to intimidate the gods, demanding to know if they made him do all that he did when they didn't even have a way to turn him human again. Well, it turns out that this is what happened because as soon as Kim starts to lose his shit, the gods begin to panic. One of them claims that the Demon King must have realized their little scheme, and the other just starts claiming that this is why he was against the plan from the start, wondering why they ever made a contract with a lowly maverick in the first place. Hearing this, Kim is even more pissed, so he interrupts the arrogant god. The Demon King was summoned through a forbidden art, and so he's outside the bounds of the natural laws, which makes him an imperishable being. He can't die from old age because he's an undead, and on top of that, his abilities also make him a threat to the divine realm. Kim knows all of this, so he reminds them just how powerful he is and threatens to make them pay if they can't turn him into a human. At this point, the gods realize that they're about to face his wrath, so they immediately start to beg for some more time. They ask him to just take care of a few more problems for them, which is just annoyingly bold of them when they clearly didn't keep to their word the first time. Now that they've failed to keep their promise, the Demon King informs them that they will have to pay with their lives. That being said, he reveals that it's time for them to become skulls just like him, and then he proceeds to let out a villainous laugh. Just when Kim is about to deal with the lying bastards, he notices something strange happening to him. For some unknown reason, his mana starts to fade and he's suddenly unable to move his body. At this point, the cunning god from earlier reveals that he's the one responsible for this. He mocks Kim's efforts, calling them futile, and then reveals that the one whose name is written in their book will be unable to move no matter who they are. This crafty god wrote Kim's name there to activate the Banish Disaster spell, and reveals that it's the highest class holy art used to seal disasters as powerful as the Demon King. He claims that Kim should have been thankful that they even let him do their bidding. As far as he's concerned, Kim should have never even dared to defy them, and for his actions, they sentenced him to live as a bug for the rest of his days. Hearing this, the protagonist is simply heartbroken that he's about to undergo another terrible transformation. To him, the gods should have at least picked a fuzzy caterpillar or something like that. In response, the cunning god just calls him a lowly creature and wonders why he obsesses so much over hair. He's about to finalize the spell when the tables suddenly turn again. For some reason, the spell doesn't work and the gods become very confused. That's when Kim chimes in laughing. He claims that they should have been quicker and never revealed their hand to him because he'd rather blow himself up than become a bug. In the blink of an eye, the Demon King literally blows himself up in a massive way before the gods can even do anything to stop him. As the dust settles, the gods realize that Kim self-destructed, which makes them wonder if he's insane. Just then, they find a bug crawling nearby and they realize that the spell might have worked. They start to think that it actually activated and sealed the Demon King's soul, so they're pretty relieved. With the Demon King gone, the gods feel that they should be able to regain their powers because every time a demon disappears, they become stronger. As great as this all sounds, they also know that they can't afford to let their guard down just yet because they don't know when another disaster of the same ilk will be born. That being the case, the cunning god decides to create a perfect vessel of a saying in the human realm in order to exterminate every last demon there is and make sure that no disaster like the Demon King ever threatens their existence again. Hearing this, one of the junior gods asks the oldest one if he'll be okay because such a spell would exhaust a lot of his powers. However, he tells the guy not to worry about him and instructs him to select a proper soul to put in the body of the saint. As for the skeleton Demon King, who he believes is now a bug, he decides that he'll torture Kim for all of eternity. While that's happening, the scene shifts and everything goes dark. Here, Kim wakes up and starts to think that he might have lost his mind. He can't believe that he was conned by those gods and assumes that he must have gotten stupid because he was literally a brainless skeleton. Just then, the place becomes really bright, which catches him off guard. At first, he can't feel anything and figures that he doesn't have any hands because he's a bug, but then all of a sudden, he starts to feel some warmth and dampness before realizing that he actually has hands. Strangely, these are baby hands, and in that moment, he realizes that he has become human again, but he has no idea how. He remembers that those bastard gods wanted him dead, so the fact that he's still alive means that they messed up the seal somehow. While he's still wondering what the hell is going on, his thoughts are interrupted by someone who calls him the Holy One. The lady is so excited as she reveals that the saint has opened his eyes, and of course, our boy has no idea what she's talking about. The young man and the lady standing next to his cradle are surprised that he woke up from his nap already, and Kim quickly presumes that these guys must be his nanas or something, but the truth is that these guys aren't here to take care of him. They tell him that he needs to fall back asleep, and that's when he sees the baby bottle filled with poison. The man claims that the holy child needs to rest in peace, so it becomes clear that they're here to kill him at this point. Kim is horrified by this, but all he can do as a helpless baby is cry because he has no idea why he has to die again when he only just got reincarnated. The story continues with the evil nanny trying to force the bottle into Kim's mouth. Just when he tries to feed our little hero the poison, the baby turns his face to the side and literally uses his hand to shove the bottle away. The nanas are stunned when they see this and they can't believe it. They can't understand why the baby isn't eating, and while they're still trying to wrap their heads around this, Kim just turns to the side and pretends to fall asleep. He only just became human again, so there's no way in hell that he'll allow them to feed him such a suspicious substance so easily. As much as he'd like to remain alive in the human realm, another thing that really bothers him is the fact that he doesn't even know how he got reincarnated as a human baby in the first place. He still doesn't know what happened with the gods back in the divine realm, so the current situation is still pretty baffling for him. Just then, the nanas start begging him to eat like the baby he is and try to trick him, but their cover is blown when they suddenly refer to him as Sir Isaac. Kim's eyes widen in shock when he hears this and he instantly shoots up from the bed, wondering if he just heard right. Sure enough, he did, and he quickly realizes that this is the same name that he was called in the other realm because people there couldn't pronounce his real name correctly. This is the name that the gods used in the Banished Disaster spell to seal him away, so he figures that the reason why the spell didn't work on him was because they spelt his name wrong. That's why he didn't get sealed away and instead got reincarnated into a different body with the same name. He's so excited when he realizes this because he's now sure that the foolish gods failed to seal him away for good, even though they thought that they had gotten rid of him. His little celebration is cut short when the nanas suddenly start forcing him to take the poison in the bottle. They try to hold him down, but he resists them. Unfortunately, his baby strength isn't enough, so they overpower him and finally get him to drink the green juice. As he suspected, the stuff tastes very bad and he immediately confirms that it's a vegetable-flavored drink after only a few sips. Just as he feared, the strange juice starts to affect him, and all of a sudden, he can feel something ominous entering his body. His vision starts to blur, and the last thing he sees before everything goes dark are the nanas' sinister smiles. The scene shifts after this and we're suddenly taken to the Holy Empire Hella Central East Temple. Here, we get to see the mastermind behind the assassination attempt on the baby. A shady-looking priest is seen walking down the hall as he thinks about how the baby must be meeting his end right about now. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted when another man talks about how lively he seems today. This blonde-haired noble is actually the emperor of the Holy Empire Hella, who goes by the name Alexander Heathcliff Hella. In response, the bishop and his priests bow to the emperor as they greet him and acknowledge him as the empire's son. Without exchanging pleasantries any further, the emperor cuts to the chase and bluntly asks the bishop what business he is coming here. In response, the shady priest quickly claims that they've come to greet the saint candidate of House Joshua. After all, the holy seer must be present in regards to the Holy One. The emperor doesn't seem to be a fan of these guys, and he doesn't even bother hiding it. He feels that the bishop makes it sound like a burden by saying that he must be present because it's the saint. He suggests that there would be a serious problem if something went wrong again after the saint candidate was left in the Holy See's care. The bishop becomes very nervous when the emperor says this, but he decides not to admit anything and instead denies knowing anything about that. While he's still trying to deny this, someone suddenly barges into the room. The guard informs them that something bad has happened to the young master. Without wasting another second, the emperor and his guards start running to the young master's room. Alexander bursts into the room to check on his son, and the nanas immediately reveal that the baby is completely fine. She talks about how cute he is and points to his plum belly. With a big smile on her face, she claims that the cute baby is such an angel. This is all really shocking because earlier, it looked like they were trying to kill him with poison, but now it's looking like they were just trying to feed him to death. Apparently, the poison didn't work because he's already drunk 15 bottles of the juice and nothing has happened. As you can imagine, the bishop who masterminded the whole thing is shocked when he sees this. He can't believe his eyes because he thought that the baby would be dead by now. The evil priest can't even wrap his head around it because the boy shouldn't be alive after drinking so much of the poison. After all, he knows better than anyone that the content of those bottles isn't just vegetable juice. Nobody knows how the baby survived, so let's rewind a bit and find out what exactly happened. Well, it all started a few minutes ago when the nanas gave him the drink for the first time. He started feeling dizzy and he could also sense the ominous energy entering his body. It was only after a few sips that he realized that it wasn't just any ordinary poison. It's actually holy poison, a devastating poison that destroys the holy power of the members of the clergy. It doesn't have any immediate effects, but because it's poison, it becomes deadly if too much accumulates in the body. With that being said, the fact that he drank 15 bottles already without being dead is just insane. Well, it turns out that there's a small tweak regarding the poison. Apparently, the poison is made from the mana of demons, so as a former demon king, this is just perfect for him. Giving things made from mana to a demon like him is amazing for him. He decides that he'll eat up all of the poison because as far as he's concerned, it's mana baby food. He likes it so much that he starts asking for more, and the clueless nanas just keep pumping him with the poison, thinking that they're getting closer to killing him. The baby enjoys it so much that he literally gives the baby a thumbs up while drinking it. The mana absorption is perfect for him, and after he's done with it, He starts to think about what he needs to do from now on and decides that he needs to enter the world beyond the conscious mind. Kim wants to explore the deepest part of the unconscious world and get to the source of it so that he can create the mana core. He believes that this place is safe for him, so he gets right to absorbing the mana that he's been fed with. Our boy starts by putting the mana that he absorbed into the mana core since he needs it to be able to use magic later. As such, he starts preparing, but then all of a sudden, a huge explosion ruins everything for him. He's so shocked because that wasn't supposed to happen. After the explosion, he sees a bright white light revealed, which leaves him pretty confused. As far as he knows, a mana core should be one of the 3 primary colors, so he doesn't get why it's white. Besides the color, he feels that there's even a bigger problem, which is the fact that so much power is contained inside the small core that isn't even fully formed yet. It's pretty baffling, but it's also good for him because it appears that the result of his mana absorption is even beyond his expectations. He attempts to go closer to the powerful mana core, and with each step, all he can do is wonder just how many blessings were crammed into this young body of his. He's so impressed and feels that he might even be able to become a much greater monster than he imagined if he manages to grow with this power. As he finally reaches the bright white core, he sees his new name, Isac, boldly written on it, and without any hesitation, he pushes the survive button beneath it. It reminds him of the desperate desire to survive that was engraved within his soul. Back in his previous life, he wanted to survive no matter what, and in the end, that became the genesis of the Skeleton King. That made him able to create special original buffs and skills. And now, those skills were inherited by this new baby body, which is absolutely amazing for him. Back in the human realm, we see that baby Isac is now fast asleep, and the evil Nanas are anxiously watching him to confirm if he's finally dead after pumping him with several bottles of poison. After staring at him for a while, the lady tells her partner in crime to check the baby and confirm, but Isac suddenly raises his hand in his sleep, which almost gives the Nanas a heart attack. To their surprise, he literally asks for one more bottle of the green juice, requesting that it be stronger than all the ones before. The flashback scene finally ends and we're all caught up with the present. Now, Alexander is in the room as well, and he's pretty relieved to see that nothing bad happened to the child. If only he knows that the saint nearly got assassinated not too long ago. While most people around are relieved, the bishop is extremely nervous now. He notices Isac staring at him from the cradle, and this makes him very uncomfortable. He knows what the evil priest was in on his assassination attempt, but he decides to play it cool. He feels that he can't afford to be suspicious no matter what, and decides that it's best to just keep a smile on his face and act like he has no idea. So, he does just that and starts smiling all of a sudden, which also manages to piss the bishop off. He's furious that the baby is still laughing because he expected that the child would have been dying as he coughed up blood. The scene shifts and we're taken a few days back at the headquarters of the Holy See. Here, someone reveals that whoever becomes the saint will possess the Holy Empire, and while most people in the story are okay with this, there are those who are not too happy about it. A certain long-haired character is particularly irritated by the thought of those pesky noble families having declared that one of their children to be the saint. He complains about this to the bishop, who seems to be one of his loyalists. The priest tells him not to worry and assures him that they're dealing with the other saint candidates. Hearing this, the man is pleased, but then he also admits that he heard a very unpleasant rumor earlier. Apparently, he also found out that a saint candidate appeared from House Joshua, and he's very annoyed just thinking about it. He's so pissed that he almost crushes the wine chalice in his hand. He knows that House Joshua is the emperor's right hand, so that's some really tough competition. The bishop gets really nervous at this point, claiming that there's nothing they can do about it because he feels that the baby died before they got there. This desperate noble is actually Harry Barrett, the cardinal and head of House Barrett. He reveals that he acted first to ensure the child's death, but now he needs someone to verify the corpse for him. Harry made an attempt on the child's life because he wants to make sure that the saint can only come from his house. As the flashback ends, we see the bishop boiling in anger as he sweats profusely. Lord Barrett told him that the child would be dead, so he doesn't get why that's not the case. The situation is bad for him at the moment because he knows that he can't go back to Harry with such bad news. Alexander admired the boy in his cradle, pointing out his shiny platinum blonde hair, which is the same color of hair that the emperor's found had. He expects the bishop to agree with him, but the priest just tries to advise him against such blasphemy. At this point, Isac realizes that the man standing above his cradle is the emperor, and he's so taken aback. Alexander continues to admire the child, claiming that he even looks closer to God than the current pope. That being said, he concludes that Isac must be the final saint candidate, and the moment he says this, our boy is absolutely stunned. He had no idea that he was the saint candidate, and he's finally starting to understand what's been going on. As you can imagine, the bishop isn't happy to see that the emperor is already favoring this child, and so he decides that he can't let it be. With this in mind, he comes up with a mischievous plan and requests permission to inspect the child. Alexander is reluctant to let this happen, so the bishop insists that something is odd about the boy, claiming that there's no way a baby could finish all that vegetable juice. Still, the emperor doesn't get what's so strange about that. While the bishop is working hard to execute his plan, our boy just lies there, wondering how he could be the saint candidate when he was literally the demon king not too long ago. The priest once again requests permission to inspect the child, but the emperor tells him that he can only proceed when someone from House Joshua arrives. At this point, the bishop becomes desperate, and while he's still trying to convince the emperor, our boy accidentally releases some demonic energy from his body. The moment that happens, he already knows he's busted, and sure enough, the sharp bishop senses the demonic energy. He informs the emperor of his discovery and suddenly becomes really confident that he'll successfully ruin the child's chances. Isac sees the twisted look on the bishop's face and instantly realizes that the bastard noticed what happened. The cunning priest goes on to accuse our boy of being a fake candidate beating Mana and suggests that the inquisitor investigate the child immediately. Our boy curses at the back of his mind because he's afraid that his cover has been blown, but to his surprise, the emperor still defends him. Alexander snaps at the bishop, reminding him that he's speaking to the saint candidate. At this point, the priest uses the opportunity to talk about the candidate from House Berit. He tells the emperor not to worry and claims that the pope already selected the child from House Berit as his saint. Fortunately, Alexander doesn't subscribe to that nomination. In fact, he's annoyed that the pope would select a child from his own house as the saint and considers it a shameless move. While this exchange is going on, Isac is literally sweating nervously in his cradle because he doesn't get why the bishop is trying so hard to get rid of him. Things get worse for our boy all of a sudden when the bishop picks him up from the bed and orders the priests to invite an inquisitor. Thankfully, just when it looked like the jig was up for our boy, the emperor halts the entire process. He reminds the bishop that House Joshua is the imperial family's closest ally, and as such, he strongly suggests that his child be reassessed at a later date. In response, the crafty bishop claims that he understands, but the look on his face suggests that he has no intention of changing his plans. While still holding Isac in his arms, he reveals that he spoke to the pope earlier, who mentioned that he would hold the ceremony of investiture for the crown prince only after the saint's selection. This news comes as a big blow to the emperor because he immediately realizes that the pope doesn't plan on officially recognizing his son as the prince unless he agrees with his saint choice. This is a tough spot for the emperor because now he has to choose between this child that he deeply admires and his own son. Still in disbelief, he asks the bishop if this is truly the Holy See's intention, while our boy just concludes that the priest is a son of a bitch. Seeing just how much politics is involved in the whole thing, Isac starts to feel like he doesn't even want to be the saint candidate anymore. It's clearly way too risky for him, and it would only be a matter of time before his true identity is revealed. Seeing how unsettled the emperor has suddenly become, the bishop offers another proposal, suggesting that they can just inspect the child right now and avoid having to engage in extremely dirty politics later on. The priest suggests using the holy exorcism arts, claiming that the child will be unharmed if he's a normal human, but he also makes it clear that Isac will be exterminated if he turns out to be a demon. Before the bishop can even finish saying this, our boy lands a mean blow on his face which knocks out a few of his teeth along with some blood. After doing this, Isac just starts mumbling a whole lot of gibberish which translates to him calling the bishop an arrogant son of a bitch. Seeing that the man is determined to blow his cover, our boy figures that it's best to play along with whatever game he is. With his cheek absolutely throbbing, he winces in pain and wonders how an ordinary bottle can hurt so much. Just then, he notices that the baby is literally glowing and begins to think that this light might actually mean that the child is truly the saint. He did sense some holy energy from the child too, but this one is different, and while he's still trying to wrap his head around it, Isac hits him with the bottle a couple more times. The pain is unbearable, and after being brutalized by the baby, he confirms that this energy he's sensing is definitely mana. The emperor senses it as well, and he's so excited when he sees the bright light radiating from the child. While that's happening, our boy prepares to make the bottle even tougher with strengthening magic so that he can give the bishop one last hit that he won't forget, all while making sure that he looks like an innocent baby the whole time. Isac lands the final blow on the old man's head, and it's so painful this time around that the bishop is forced to his knees. Seeing this, the emperor concludes that the priest must be admiring the baby's holy power. After beating the shit out of the old man, our boy notices something strange on his glowing bottle. It turns out that he senses a faint amount of holy power too whenever he uses mana. Mana and holy power are incompatible and normally can't be used together, so he figures that this strange combo must have something to do with that white mana core. Suddenly, the bishop has finally had enough, so he grabs the bottle and tosses it on the floor as he gets back on his feet with the child still in his arms. He then claims that the baby is a heretic and insists that they use the holy exorcism arts immediately. Our boy is just disappointed when he sees that this piece of shit still hasn't learned his lesson. Since the bishop has refused to give up and mind his own business, Isac decides that it's time to pull out the big guns. He wasn't planning on going this far before, but now he has no choice. The baby suddenly reaches under the priest's sleeve and reveals a very interesting item that the man has been hiding there. It's a strange demon hand with a cross on it, which our boy identifies as the corpse of a sealed high-ranking demon, also known as a totem. This is an artifact that utilizes the characteristics of demons, who eat corpses of other demons and absorb their mana. Our boy was actually keeping this totem on him at all times to use against demons if he ever encountered them, and so it was pretty easy for him to detect one nearby. The bishop is bewildered that the baby knew about his totem, and before he can do anything about it, Isac throws it to the floor, activating its magical energy. As the mummified hand begins to unravel, our boy makes it clear that this is all happening because the old man kept coming after him, and now he'll have to face the consequences of his actions. With the snap of his finger, Isac activates the totem, which brings the demonic monster to life in seconds. As the beast awakens, our boy gets really excited because now he'll get to watch the filthy bishop try and parry this threat all by himself. The story continues with the monster coming to life, leaving everyone around absolutely terrified. None of them are able to understand how a shadow lick of all creatures could be here. The emperor is particularly furious at the bishop because he never thought the priest would be dumb enough to let a demon loose in the temple. Clearly, nobody saw what Isac just did, so the bishop is forced to take the blame. He tries to defend himself, claiming that it was the baby that threw the totem, but Alexander just dismisses his excuse, reminding him that a totem is just an object used to seal a demon beast. As far as he's concerned, a baby is incapable of activating the artifact, and so he's convinced that the bishop is responsible. As if the situation wasn't already annoying enough for the priest, the emperor suddenly orders all of his forces to focus on protecting the saint candidate from the demon beast. As such, several guards rush to take Isac away from the bishop, all oblivious to the fact that the kid is the mastermind. Our boy just laughs at the old man as the guards carry him to safety. He taunts the bishop and patiently waits to see how the old man will deal with the demon on the loose. All of a sudden, the shadow lick starts chanting something that instantly changes the situation. It turns out that this hooded demon that our boy just brought back to life is actually mandated to kill the saint, who just happens to be him in this life. So, when he hears the demon saying this over and over, the smug look on his face disappears and is instantly replaced with a look of confusion. The shadow lick charges at the guards trying to protect him, but even though the monster is absolutely terrifying, they all stand their ground, determined to protect the young lord. Isac has no idea what the hell is wrong with the creature because he literally saved its life and now it's trying to attack him. As much as he should be worried, he feels pretty relaxed because he believes that the paladins should be able to protect him from the demon. Unfortunately, it couldn't be more wrong about this because the next thing he sees is the first guard getting knocked out with ease, which makes him wonder if the guy is actually a paladin. Just like that, the monster continues to close in as it keeps screaming its desire to kill the saint. The demon wipes out the guards easily and doesn't take long before it's just Isac and the last paladin, who looks like he's about to shit his pants. At this point, he subjugates the demon first before it kills everyone in the temple. After all, no one would notice him using his demonic magic in a situation like this. He feels a little disappointed that everyone is trying to kill him in this new life and you only just got here. He's even more annoyed at this shadow monster because he is the one who brought it back to life and yet it's trying to kill him. Just when it looks like it's about to finish him off, he uses a powerful spell on the foolish shadow lick and instantly reveals his true demon king nature to it, leaving it terrified and subjugating it instantly. The creature holds its attack at that moment and our boy follows up with another huge expression of his magic. He starts glowing brightly and the magical energy radiating from his body is so powerful that it leaves the emperor and everyone else watching in a daze. They're bewildered by his power and the shadow lick is also overwhelmed by it, so much so that it tries to make a run for it. The paladins notice that the demon is trying to escape, but none of them do anything about it because they probably prefer it running away than having to face it. After the shadow lick escapes, the emperor and his guards immediately conclude that the young lord just used holy power. They just witnessed Isac drive a greater demon out of the temple with his magical power, and this just makes Alexander even more endeared to him. The guards surround the child and begin to shower him with praise. The one carrying him claims that the boy is so amazing at such a young age, and the other states that it's just the kind of thing expected of the young lord. While they're all drooling over him, the baby in question suddenly notices his glowing with even more magical energy and he finally realizes that this is actually holy power. It's really baffling for him because this can only mean that he's run out of mana. Either that's the case or this strange body is somehow turning his mana into holy power. Isac isn't too happy about this development because he doesn't know how he's going to accumulate mana now, and that might be a problem because the Holy Empire already lacks mana. While he's still pondering on this, the bishop regains consciousness. The guards try to help him up but he just snaps at them and keeps trying to go after our boy. He insists that the child is a heretic that uses the powers of demonkind and he's furious that such a person made it into the Holy Empire. Even after everything that has happened, this bishop is still determined to prove that the kid is not the true saint. He's ready to do whatever it takes to make sure that the emperor agrees with the pope's choice, so he offers to prove that Isac is a demon and uncover his real identity with an exorcism. As you can imagine, the emperor has had enough of the priest trying to discredit the not-so-innocent baby. He's pissed that the bishop is accusing the saint candidate of being a demon, and on top of that, Alexander still thinks that he's the one that let the greater demon loose in the temple. With everything that has gone down today, the emperor makes it clear that he will not let this matter go. Right now, he doesn't even care if the old man is from the Holy See. Seeing how mad Alexander is, the bishop begins to panic because he knows that it won't take long for him to find out about the infiltrator if he becomes suspicious. If that happens, then the Holy See could also be in trouble, so this cunning priest decides that he must do anything to take responsibility for what happened so that he can protect his family, even if it means that he'll be executed. The only way you make sure of this is by killing the saint candidate of House Joshua and taking the fall, and he's determined to do this. With this in mind, he activates his blood spirit animal and charges at the baby. Our boy sees the incoming attack, but he's not bothered in the slightest. In fact, he just looks disappointed that the dumb bastard is finally showing his true colors after so long. He also finds it really shameful that the bishop even thinks that he can kill the former demon king with such a weak attack. Well, this is what our boy is feeling until he suddenly remembers that he no longer has any mana left on him. His eyes widen in horror as the realization hits him, because now it's almost too late for him to do anything or come up with another plan. All he can do now is watch as the massive wolf monster charges at him with blistering speed. Just when it looks like his time in this body might finally be up, a magical attack comes out of nowhere and incapacitates the bishop. Our boy is surprised to see this because he has no idea where that counterattack just came from. While he's still trying to process what just happened, a white-haired figure appears, demanding to know who dares try to lay a hand on the direct lineage of Joshua. It turns out that this guy who just saved our boy is actually Rilai, the seventh son of House Joshua, who came just in the nick of time with the other knights. Seeing that the bishop was responsible for the assassination attempt, Rilai orders his execution. The bishop tries to resist, but the Joshua knight sees him immediately, so he just starts begging until he's dragged out of the scene. As for all the others in the temple, Rilai instructs them to show their manners, so they all bow down to pay respect to the young master of House Joshua. Afterward, Rilai apologizes to our boy for taking so long, and the kid is just amazed by the fact that the Joshua Knights are even better than the Imperial Knights. The seventh son reveals that he brought a little present for Isaac, and even before it's revealed, our boy starts wondering if it's gold. Unfortunately, it's not gold, and it also happens to be the worst present they could have gotten him, because it's literally a figurine of the Skeleton King being beheaded. As if that's not already disturbing enough, Rilai reveals that they also have a figurine of the Demon King being burned to death. That's not even the worst one, because there's also a figurine of the Saintess crushing the Skeleton King. As you can imagine, our boy would very much prefer to pass on these presents because they might actually give him nightmares if he keeps them. Anyway, since he can't talk yet, all he can do is stare at the toys with horror laced all over his face. The Joshua Knights must have missed the young master a lot while he was away, because they can't seem to get enough of his cuteness. While they're busy fawning over how pretty the baby is, all our boy can think about is how difficult it will be for him to survive in a crazy show like this that's obsessed with killing the Demon King in the most horrible ways. He's so lost in thought that he doesn't even realize when a tear runs down his face, and when the guards see it, they just conclude that he likes the figurine so much that he was pushed to tears. The knights are convinced that the young lord likes the present so much, but in reality our boy is just horrified by the thought of having to live with these guys. He can't even imagine how he's supposed to survive in this crazy family. While thinking about this, something crosses his mind all of a sudden. He recalls the Joshua name and realizes just how familiar it actually is. Our boy remembers that he's actually heard this name before in his previous life as the Demon King. It turns out that the saintesses that came to end him while he was a skeleton demon were actually from the Yusha family. They came after him several times, and based on what our boy remembers, they were all in Joshua something, so to think that he's actually from the family of the saintess is just crazy for him. Not only is he the saint candidate all of a sudden, but he is also a descendant of the same family that is obsessed with trying to kill him. Just thinking about this makes him wonder what wrongs he must have committed in his past life to be out in such a sticky situation. Our boy only got reincarnated, but he is already tired of these damn Joshuas. While he's deep in thought, we see that the Joshua Knights are still trying to deal with the evil bishop. The All-Man keeps resisting, so the Knights try to shut him up. Regardless, he keeps cursing at them, claiming that he knew they were all heretic bastards. He angrily asks them where they brought the baby from, and vows to uncover Isaac's true identity. Right now, the bishop looks like he's already lost his mind, because he's yelling at the top of his lungs with a deranged look on his face. He claims that they brought a monster into the temple and accuses the Joshua house of being insane. While he's saying all sorts of trash and talking about how the baby will end the Joshua bloodline, one of the knights unsheathes his sword and slits the bishop's throat in the blink of an eye. As you'd expect, this ruthless knight is none other than Rilai, who stands over the dying priest, telling him to be grateful for the benevolence of Joshua that spared his neck after he spouted that nonsense. Seeing what just happened, our boy is pretty taken aback because he didn't know that the knight was this useful. The guy literally slashed the bishop's neck just because he insulted the Joshua family. After witnessing this, Isaac is so surprised to see that the white-haired knight has the confidence to even take in the Holy See. Just then, one of the other knights comes around with a blindfold to cover the baby's eyes, feeling that the young lord should only have to witness good things and not horrifying stuff like an execution. Seeing how soft these guys are, Isaac is just a little annoyed. He feels that they're all crazy and starts to reconsider what he said about them being useful. The more he thinks about these guys, the more stuff he recalls about them. He suddenly remembers that the blue Joshuas were pretty strong and that his subordinates would freak out whenever they saw the blue ones. The knights in question are still trying to make the baby interested in the figurines, which just pisses him off. Before he can get any more frustrated, the emperor chimes in, stating that his family owes this baby a debt. After all, he literally just aced the temple from a deadly shadow lick. With this in mind, he calls on Sir Rilai, asking him to tell the head of House Joshua that the imperial palace wants to raise the boy. Surprisingly, the white-haired knight doesn't agree with this idea. He feels that Alexander jokes too much, and while he's dismissing the suggestion, Isac gets all excited by the idea of being scouted by the imperial palace. Seeing that the young knight doesn't look forthcoming, the emperor tries to convince him otherwise, reminding Sir Rilai that the Holy Empire will target the boy internally and externally. While it's true that Joshua is powerful, Alexander doesn't think that the Blue Faith, the current knights of the house, have what it takes to protect the child. The seventh son is taken aback by this, and for a second he is left speechless. This statement makes our boy very curious, and he begins to wonder what the emperor is talking about. Isac leans closer so he can listen properly, and that's when he hears the emperor say that the Pope will disapprove of the boy. The color of his hair is symbolic of the ancestors of the Holy Empire, and that's not even the worst part, because the Skeleton King seems to be after the next saint candidate. All of this sounds pretty baffling to our boy, because he's literally the Skeleton King, and if the emperor is right, then it means he would have to be afraid of himself, which doesn't really make any sense. His thoughts are interrupted when he suddenly hears Sir Rilai apologizing to Alexander a second time. Apparently, nothing the emperor just said is enough to change his mind, so he politely insists that the child be raised by House Joshua. Isac is surprised to hear this, and he's even more surprised when Sir Rilai confidently states that Joshua can deal with the Pope and the Skeleton King. He has a strong feeling that the previous Saintess Melissa would be very happy if they're able to meet the Skeleton King again, and the emperor agrees with him. That being said, Sir Rilai goes on to say that he couldn't possibly leave the direct descendant of the sentence Melissa in the imperial palace. While the knight is trying to make its point, our boy is taken aback for a second because he recognizes this name and remembers that he actually fought a certain Melissa right before he went to the divine realm. Just thinking about her makes Isac freak out, because he remembers that she was the crazy sentence who also happened to be the toughest to deal with. To think that he's a saint candidate born in the sentient family is already stressful enough for him. It gets worse because on top of that he's also really the direct descendant of the Demon King. At this point, all he can do is freak out and scream at the back of his mind as he wonders why his life is so messed up. So, we have been hearing a lot about saints, and also what exactly is a saintess. Well, it turns out that the gods that lost to the Skeleton King every time they wanted to win so badly finally created a weapon with all their efforts to close up a mace sent by the gods to smite evil. The lion of the battlefield that wields holy light. The greatest light of the Holy Empire and the highest ranking knight. Due to the overwhelming power of the saintess, people believed that the Skeleton King had seen his final days. This warrior of the gods had attack and defense close to death of celestial beings. She had cockroach-level survival, which means that she was almost unkillable. She also had his self-destruct mechanism in case she needed it, and with every generation she got stronger. Even with all of these skills and abilities, the Skeleton King remained merciless and was able to always defeat her. With all of this in mind, our boy recalls how he has never actually killed a saintess because it's not good for him anyway. If a saintess dies and the holy power goes back to the gods, they can just send an upgraded next version saintess. That's how they had been doing it for the longest time, and it was like a walk in the park for him. But the last saintess, Melissa, was really strong to beat. She was so powerful that he almost even died during the fight, so to think that he's now the descendant of someone who hates his true identity so much makes him very worried. The conversation between the knight and the emperor resumes at this point, with Sir Rilai pointing out how the saintess lives only for the destruction of the Skeleton King, stating that Joshua produces those saintesses and carries out the will of the gods. As such, he's confident that the Joshua family has the ability to protect the child. Hearing this, the emperor is a little pissed because he knows that the knight is making a lot of sense. He's left speechless for a while because he doesn't really know how to counter the point. Just then, one of his paladins chimes in and sides with the emperor. The guy points out how numerous saintesses have been martyred by the Skeleton King, but Isac just feels bad when he hears them saying this again because he didn't even kill any of the saintesses. The paladin resumes his rant, stating that the Skeleton King once banished a saintess to a labyrinth just because he thought that she wasn't good enough to fight. This is another false accusation that our boy wishes he could clarify, because he definitely didn't banish her. What actually happened was that he let her go, but it turns out she was bad with directions and ended up getting herself lost. Apparently, there were 5 other saintesses who died of stress-related diseases after facing the Demon King, and as you can imagine, Isac refuses to take the blame for this one too, because he feels that they should have just gone to the hospital or something if they were sick. Our boy starts to get pretty uncomfortable as he listens to the whole exchange, and while he's freaking out, Sir Riley just tells him not to worry, claiming that House Joshua has heard all the stories and doesn't care about the curse. At this point, Isaac calms down for a second because even though he's not okay with all the things they've been saying, he's very curious about what this curse is all about. Sir Riley lifts the baby up, admitting that they are all thankful for his birth, but then again, he reveals that there's one more thing they wish from the child. Apparently, all they want from our boy Isac is that he doesn't grow up to be like the terrible Skeleton King, which is going to be pretty difficult considering the fact that he was actually the previous Demon King. The pressure on him is something else, and even though he just got reincarnated into this world, he still feels that he owes his parents, who he doesn't even know yet, an apology because everyone already believes that he was a bad person. The Emperor is still determined to have the new saint candidate raised under his care, so he pleads with Sir Riley to reconsider his decision. It's been 150 years since the Skeleton King has been sealed away, and so the Emperor is afraid that the demons have become more powerful in that time. On the other hand, Isaac is just bewildered by the fact that it's been over a century since he was sealed away. He figures that Saintess Melissa must have died long ago since she was already 50 years old the last time they fought. Alexander continues his speech, talking about how the saint is a great asset for the Holy Empire to increase its power, and as such, he believes that the boy is also very important to the Imperial Palace too. Furthermore, there's no Saintess in Joshua currently because it's been a year since the last Saintess gave birth to the boy and disappeared with the father. For most people, the craziest part about this would be the fact that both parents ran away, but Isaac is more horrified by the fact that his mother was the Saintess. Despite Alexander's best attempts, the white-haired knight refuses to budge on his stand. Even though he might be right about the Saintess being nowhere to be found, Riley is confident that the matriarch still lives one, and he's even more certain that Joshua can protect the child. While the knight is doing his best to win this debate, the boy in question is busy trying to make sure that he gets all the surprises out of the way. As far as he's concerned, nothing else can be more shocking than finding out that his mother is a saintess. Unfortunately, he's wrong because there are even more shocking surprises in store. All of a sudden, he learns that Dame Melissa is currently out to destroy the Skeleton King's subordinates and will be back soon. It turns out that the Saintess Melissa happens to be his grandmother, who would definitely be expecting to see her grandchild when she returns. Sir Riley points this out, hoping that the Emperor finally gives up, but Alexander is persistent. He feels that it will take a lot of time before Melissa is back, and while he's still talking, he notices Isaac acting weird. Apparently, our boy is freaking out because he just learned that his arch-nemesis is still alive after 200 years and now also his grandmother. Right now, our boy is pretty vulnerable because he's still just a baby, so he is afraid that he might get smited by Saintess Melissa if she finds out that he's the reincarnation of her greatest enemy. Other people might be okay with this discovery, but he knows Melissa far too well and knows that she's dangerous enough to take him out even though he's just an innocent baby. Knowing that he probably won't survive in the Joshua house, he makes up his mind to stay with the Emperor. All of a sudden, he starts leaning over to Alexander, gesturing for the noble man to carry him. Of course, the Emperor quickly reads this and suggests that Isaac wants to go to the Imperial Palace, but Sir Riley claims that the child is just being clingy and nothing more. With the baby now happily in his arms, he assures the knight that the Imperial Palace can provide a lot for the young lord. He feels that it's better for the child because even though Joshua has produced many saintesses over the years, they have never actually raised a boy saint, which means they have no experience with that. Unfortunately, Sir Riley isn't ready to let go of the child just yet. He pulls Isaac back and claims that the boy will grow up to become an exorcist knight that vanquishes evil. And since House Joshua is a family that raises the greatest exorcist knights, Riley is confident that the kid is in good hands. As for Isaac being the first saint ever, the knight reminds Alexander that the imperial family has no experience with that either. At this point, both men are desperate to keep the child and they start to forget their manners. They start dragging the kid like a toy, and our boy concludes that they're all crazy. The paladins on the side are extremely worried that the baby will be hurt real soon. Both men are fighting to decide the boy's future, but they don't even know that he's already made this choice. Isaac wants to go to the Imperial Palace because he wants to survive, and on top of that, he has been sensing the light of survival from the Emperor since they first met. With this in mind, he radiates the light to reveal his decision, and the Emperor is glad to see that the young lord made the wise choice. The scene shifts and we catch up with the bishop, who is about to be executed. The old man claims that he's innocent and insists that the child used mana, which means that he's a spawn of the demons. Unfortunately for him, the hooded men that he's kneeling before don't seem to agree with him. They remind him that holy power is from the gods themselves, and going by what he just told them, he's suggesting that the gods gave holy power to a lowly demon. Such a statement is blasphemy, so the leader of the group takes out his sword and advances toward him, which leaves the bishop terrified. He tries to explain that it was mana he saw and not holy power, but the executioner isn't any less upset. He reveals that the holy city calls that kind of talk blasphemy and then proceeds to take the bishop's head off with his sword. The leader of these hooded figures suggests that they form another assassination squad, but the young one feels that there is no need, since the emperor will want to take the child. He believes that they will have plenty of opportunities in the Imperial Palace. As the meeting goes on, our boy starts to sense that someone somewhere is talking about him, and that's when one of the hooded men concludes that the child will not survive this time around. The scene changes, and the next thing we see is that our boy is currently on his way to Joshua for some reason. He's being carried back there in a heavily guarded carriage, but he has no idea why that's the case, since he clearly chose to stay in the Imperial Palace and not House Joshua. Well, it all started a few days ago, back in the temple, when the Emperor and Sir Rilai were desperately fighting over who would get to raise the saint candidate. In the scene, Sir Rilai starts giving off a really blinding light, and the boy can only wonder why it's so strong. He is still in the middle of a debate, and then all of a sudden, the white-haired knight starts talking about how Joshua isn't a good environment to raise the child. He feels that the Emperor must think that they're a house that only houses monochores and the corpses of demons, but he wants to prove him wrong. Isac watches carefully and starts to recognize this light as the survival origin shining. This would mean that he stands a better chance of surviving in Joshua than in the Imperial Palace. The knight claims that the most precious thing they have is the body of the skeleton king, and when Isac hears this, he's so shocked. He can't believe that they have his body. As far as he's concerned, the knight should have started with that, because that's definitely enough reason for him to follow them to Joshua. In the blink of an eye, he changes his mind and starts leaning over to Sir Rilai, and just like that, he finds himself being transported to Joshua. During the journey, he looks out the window and starts to feel like he's giving up his life in the palace to go to the military, but then again it can't be helped, since this will help him regain his old body. His old body is one that he refined and accumulated mana in, so much mana that it's enough to fight against the gods even. Isac feels that if he can just get his body back, then getting to rank 10 will be nothing for him. Besides, it's the first time that he saw the light of the survival origin shine that brightly. For the lights to be that bright, he's certain that following this white-haired uncle to Joshua will definitely benefit him greatly in regards to his survival. Inside the carriage, one of the guards asks Sir Rilai why the forces of the Holy See are still gunning for the young master. It turns out that the boy is also pretty curious to find out the answer to this, because he doesn't understand why he is such a big deal to them. At this point, the knight reveals that it's because the gods have given the prophecy that the saint will be taken in as the son of a god. As you can imagine, this is really shocking news to the boy. This means that Isac will become the next pope, and the knight confirms this, claiming that this is the reason why House Berit is so desperate to birth the saint. Isac starts to freak out a little thinking about what he just heard. The Pope happens to be the strongest cleric who uses rank 10 holy spells. He is practically the king of all clerics and paladins, and an absolute being whose power rivals even that of this holy empire's emperor. House Berit, happy birthday to the Pope for 4,000 years. But now that the Pope's position will be taken by a saint, it's understandable that they would be up in arms as well. Just then, the two men in the carriage are interrupted when the driver comes around, informing them that they've encountered a problem even though they've arrived at the duchy. Apparently, the gate is being blocked by a few guards led by a ginger-haired fellow who tells the visitors that they will not be entering the duchy. Sir Rilai is furious when he hears this, so he jumps out of the carriage as quickly as he can to give the guys out there a piece of his mind. The white-haired man is extremely angry at David, and dares to say that they do not recognize the insignia of House Joshua. At this point, it's pretty obvious that these men are intentionally blocking the way, because they actually know that these travelers are from House Joshua. The reason why these guys are not going to let them enter is the fact that they need to eliminate the child when they inherit the blood of the saintess. In the blink of an eye, these guards are revealed to be powerful demons who set this trap to intercept the knights and kill the baby. When the paladins realize that they're being ambushed by demons, Isac is extremely annoyed, and not just because they're wasting his time, but also because he clearly remembers putting a ban on attacking human territories while he was still the Skeleton King. He figures that this behavior must be the fault of the new demon king that came after him. The ginger-haired demon calls out the humans, and then reveals that their glorious king has commanded that all saints and saintesses be killed. Hearing this, Isac confirms that a new demon king did take over, but then he's shocked when he hears that they've come to kill the saint in the name of the great Lord Isac. This catches our boy off guard, because it means they're still his subjects, but the problem here now is that he doesn't remember telling these bastards to do anything like this. The leader of this demon gang tells the knights that their lives might be spared if they just hand over the child. Being a man of action, the knight's response to this threat is blasting one of the demons into oblivion. As the ashes fall to the ground, the leader of the demons calls him a cowardly paladin. But he finally speaks up and promises the guy that he won't be dying an easy death from speaking such nonsense in front of him. He points his glowing sword at the demons and sternly tells them to listen closely. Sir Rilai vows that Joshua will destroy all evil for the sake of protecting all the small things in this world. And just like that, all the other knights of the Blue Faith follow his lead and lift their sword. They vow to chase the demons to the ends of hell and destroy every last one of them, including their wicked Skeleton King, who is now forcing his subordinates to their deaths just because he wishes to escape morality. Of course, the demons are pissed that the humans would insult their demon king Isac like that, so they charge at the knights to begin the battle, claiming that everything they're doing is for the demon king's revival. As soon as Sir Rilai sees the attack coming, he jumps out of the way with the child before the demons can get to them. The knight begs the young master to forgive him for the chaos, but all our boy can think about right now is who the hell is impersonating him. The knight carries our boy to safety and then hides him in a bush to keep him safe. He tells Isac to wait there for a while and then creates a protection barrier around him. Our boy runs his hand on the shield and realizes that even high-ranking demons won't be able to break through it, so he admits that it's a pretty impressive spell. The fact that nothing from the outside can get in also means that anything inside the protection barrier can't get out. With this in mind, he decides that it's time to activate his survival origin and unleash magic. He calls on those who are both magic and living, and it's at this point that we're introduced to Whisper, the observing one. The living shadow cloud heeds his calls and greets him, addressing Isac as his great lord. The creature is so excited to see the Skeleton King again and almost jumps on him, but our boy quickly prevents this and warns it to stay quiet so that they don't get caught. Hearing this, the shadow demon calms down and admits that he was afraid that he won't ever see his great lord again. In response, Isac admits that he also thought it was the end for him. It's been a while since he saw Whisper made of the sapient detection magic. This is the guy that the Skeleton King created because he couldn't be bothered keeping up detection magic in the middle of a fight. Whisper somehow gained consciousness at some point and Isac feels that it's pretty cute. This shadow demon is so in love with his master and concludes that the Demon King is still the same as ever. He congratulates our boy for mercilessly stealing the body of an infant because that's what he thinks happened. Of course, our boy doesn't really appreciate this assumption, but Whisper doesn't seem to care. He's quite pissed that those dirty bastard gods dared to touch his master and put him in a disgusting baby's body. At this point, Isac gets fed up with the blabbermouth, so he tells Whisper to just focus on looking for enemies. Without any hesitation, the demon initiates enemy detection. He checks the 100-meter radius in his current state and finds out that there are a total of 88 enemies that are all demons. That's a lot of enemies, but Whisper is confident that none of them will be able to lay a hand on the Great Lord. On the other hand, our boy is a bit worried that there are that many because it's almost like they're trying to start a war. Isac feels that it will be troublesome if the security in this territory increases. It will be even more difficult calling for his subordinates as well. At this rate, he is afraid that he has no choice but to deal with them himself before they're noticed by House Joshua. Even if he has to use all the mana he's accumulated until now, our boy is determined to deal with these enemies. While he's still bracing himself to join in the fight, Whisper suddenly senses something strange. It turns out that the enemy count decreases to 51 so quickly. The shadow creature reveals that the enemy forces are rapidly being culled. The number drops to 31 in a flash. At this point, even Isac is alarmed because he doesn't even know how that's happening. While he's still trying to wrap his head around that, Whisper informs him that the count has dropped to 13. We get to see what's going on the battlefield. There, one of the paladins calls out to Sir Rilai, warning him that something seems to be coming their way. At this point, the white-haired knight orders his men to take up a defensive formation. There are only 4 demons left on the battlefield, so they try to retreat. Just then, Whisper arrives at the scene, so they assume that their comrade has come to join them so that they can kill the saint today. They start chanting, but just then they think that reinforcements have arrived to help them out. Whisper annihilates them completely. The human warriors are stunned when they see the Shadow Lick helping them wipe out the demons. Isac is so excited that he could join in the fight, but then all of a sudden, everything goes south when the Shadow Lick from before appears and starts threatening the Joshua Knights for daring to touch his master. He grows so big all of a sudden, and when our boy's eyes what he's up to, he's so shocked because that's the last thing he expected. He roars at the knights, telling them to forfeit their lives, and this sends our boy into a state of panic. He wonders what the hell is wrong with the Shadow Lick, and then turns to the knights, scolding them for trapping him in the body of a lowly child because that's what he thinks happened. Since Isac was the one to free him, all of Shadow Lick's twisted affection for him suddenly exploded. The Joshua Knights are so terrified because they have no idea what the hell is going on, and that's when the Shadow warns them not to even look at the boy with their disgusting eyes. He threatens to tear their eyes out if they even think about looking at Isac. At this point, you would think that our boy's cover has been blown, but it turns out that the humans aren't able to understand the Shadow Lick because he speaks a different language. Our boy enters the scene and realizes that this bastard has figured out that he's the Skeleton King. It's annoying, but he also admits that the guy's effort in following him is commendable. As you can imagine, the Joshua Knights are not intimidated by the massive Shadow Lick. Sir Rilai orders his men to prepare for battle, and they do just that. Meanwhile, Isac is afraid that this Shadow Lick will destroy his lifeline, which is his super rich mana core. He tries to relay the message, but it just comes off as babbling, and Sir Rilai can't understand him either. The white-haired knight tries to comfort the young master, telling him to stay calm while he resolves the threat. He's interrupted when the Shadow Lick starts laughing all of a sudden. The big black creature is so excited that his master has finally recognized him. Seeing this, one of the other knights becomes pretty nervous because he's afraid that the Shadow Lick is displaying hostility. Just as they suspected, the creature suddenly charges at them, but it's not actually trying to kill them right now. Its main target is Isac because it wants to save the boy from the seal. Before Sir Rilai and the others can even do anything to intervene, the Shadow Lick reaches Isac. Our boy then orders the creature to start by breaking the protective barrier, which it does easily in the blink of an eye. Once Isac is out of the ball, he follows up by telling him to stop messing around and get some rest. The Shadow Lick is so shocked when he receives the command, but there's really nothing he can do, so he obeys and finds himself sucked back into the totem. As you'd expect, the knights are absolutely dumbfounded when they see what just happened, and as the demon hand falls to the ground, they realize that this little kid just totemized a demon kin. The scene shifts after this, and the next thing we see is a big celebration for the young lord. The knights announce to everyone that Isac totemized a demon the first try, which makes them conclude that he is absolutely incredible. He used a holy spell that only those who are at least as powerful as a saintess or cardinal can use. At least that's what they think. The truth is that our boy actually used mana, but Sir Riley is convinced that it was a holy spell of totemization. However, he also finds it off that he can't feel any holy power from the kid. The seventh son is really torn about the whole thing, but most of the other knights aren't concerned. For all they know, they just witnessed the young lord's true worth revealed during a time of emergency. Another thing that Riley finds pretty suspicious is how the Shadow Lick rushed toward Isac earlier. He feels that the creature must have felt endangered and rushed to remove the source of the power. The white-haired knight is very suspicious about everything, but the other paladins are so obsessed with the boy, rambling on about how he is definitely the saint. Thinking about this for a second, Sir Riley figures that it's actually true. After all, even the Shadow Lick came here aiming for the child, so even if he isn't the saint as they all believe, there's definitely something special about him. Even so, Sir Riley is not exactly happy that it had to be a young boy who has the curse of the Skeleton King. Just then, the captain of the Blue Order Knights talks about how they shall protect the child because he will grow up to be the future of Joshua. At this point, Riley finally realizes that he was being foolish all along because he was only afraid of the Skeleton King's curse and didn't consider the fact that the boy will uplift the house of Joshua. Now that his eyes have opened, he carries the baby and suggests that it's time for them to go home because he has many talents and they will raise him to become an incredible holy knight. Isac is pretty okay with not even becoming a knight because all he wants is for them to give him back his body when they get there. The knight vows to protect the boy no matter the cost, even though it's pretty clear that he won't live very long, which shocks our boy. He is confident that the boy's name will be spread far and wide across the continent. Riley lifts him into the air and he starts to freak out because he just heard something really disturbing. Unfortunately, the knight assumes that the baby is just excited about becoming a knight of the blue faith. The white-haired man promises to start teaching him how to curse the dishonorable Skeleton King as soon as they get home. Of course, this pisses off the young master, who confirms that these guys are definitely bastards. The scene changes and we're taken to the Joshua Duchy. As soon as they enter the place, Isac is absolutely furious because these Joshua bastards were viciously tearing up the Demonkin, but they're really living the high life over here. He's overwhelmed by the whole thing and wonders how much it would have cost to build this place. Our boy remembers how he worked himself ragged trying to do whatever he could to feed his kids. Even Whisper is blown away by how magnificent the duchy is. He admits that it's on a completely different level from their shabby palace. The gap is so much that they would even be able to buy 10 Demon King castles if they just sold a few of the sculptures in the duchy, and of course, this annoys our boy a lot since it's actually true. Sir Riley officially welcomes him into the Joshua residence, the place where exorcism and monster slaying began on the continent. He carries the baby and tells him to look out the window, showing him some other kids outside. He assures Isac that he'll be just like those kids when he's older. Our boy takes a closer look and sees the young knights in training beating the shit out of a puppet posing as the Skeleton King. This just goes to show how much hatred this family has for the Demon King, and even though he's shaken by it at first, he shrugs off the feeling, because he's confident that he can burn the Emperor alive and take over the place now that he has infiltrated the Holy Empire. Whisper chimes in at this point, teasing our boy for holding a grudge against kids despite being the Demon King. In response, he just tells the Black Cloud to shut the hell up and search the surroundings. Without wasting a second, Whisper gets right to it, and it doesn't take long for him to find something. Isac is amazed by the sight before him because he's never seen so many mana cores gathered in one place. Whisper is equally blown away by this, and it makes him wonder just how many Demonkin these guys have killed. After a while, they arrive at the main house and Sir Riley immediately asks for his room to be organized because Isac will be staying with him. Unfortunately, the servants at the main entrance politely inform him that they've received orders to guide the young Master Isac to the annex. Of course, the white-haired knight is curious as to why that's the case, so another servant reveals that the fifth son said to never bring Isac into the main building. While our boy is just confused about everything going on, Riley is just pissed that the fifth master wants to send Isac to a cursed place where someone met their end. Hearing all of this, our boy just concludes that the Joshua family is falling apart. Riley is disappointed at his big brother for doing something really pointless, and Isac agrees because he knows that he could literally be living in a mansion. He doesn't want to stay in the annex, but then Whisper informs him that the mana cores are there. Our boy starts to have a change of heart, but before he can do anything to influence the knight, Riley forces his way through, insisting that he can't let his nephew stay in that ghost-ridden place. Isac tries to protest, but it all comes out as babbling. The seventh son heads up to his room so that he can read Isac the holy scriptures of how the great saintess fought against the Skeleton King, which is also going to be his bedtime story every night. After that, he intends to tell the boy all the exorcism methods that have been specifically made for the Skeleton King. Of course, that's practically going to be like an exorcism for him. Thankfully, Riley is stopped in his tracks when the fifth son gets in the way. He wonders why his white-haired brother is making a fuss over picking up some homeless child. Apparently, Riley hasn't been home in a long time, and now that he's showing his face after so long, he's already going against his big brother. This brother in question is Gowel Joshua, the fifth son of the family. The guy stands in the way, making it clear that he's challenging the knight, and Isaac realizes that this guy is practically a thug. Gowel orders Riley to put down the baby and send him to the annex, but the seventh son refuses, claiming that they can't send a descendant of Joshua to a place where they literally exiled people in the past. At this point, Isaac figures that Gowel must be from the faction that doesn't want him here. Riley then asks his big brother to move aside so he can go read Isaac the terrible bedtime story. Of course, our boy doesn't want this to happen, and all he wants is to be put down so he can go to the annex. Seeing the baby up close, Gowel becomes pretty curious as to where Riley even found the child. He stares at Isaac with a twisted look on his face, claiming that the boy is not a descendant of their family. Our boy starts to get quite uncomfortable and wonders if the guy is a member of the clergy or if he is just a delinquent. Whatever the case, all he wants is to go to the annex so he can suck on monocores. At this point, Riley confronts his big brother, stating that he only wants to send Isaac away because he wants the boy out of contention. As soon as our boy hears this, he suddenly changes his mind. Before, he planned to suck the household dry, become the saint, then become the pope and take revenge on the gods, but he's starting to have a different idea now. Gowel just responds to this accusation, claiming that the baby is probably cursed already because he heard that a demon even came to get him. The other knights quickly dismiss this, informing the fifth son that Isaac was actually the one who played a part in banishing the demon. As far as they're concerned, the fact that a demon went after him in the first place proves that the boy is important, which is why they believe that he has the holy powers of a saint. Gowel finds them all amusing because he doesn't believe a word of anything they just said. He's quite surprised that they put so much effort into covering this trash story, so he tells them to show him the boy's powers if they want to keep calling him the next saint. Hearing this, Whisper gets all excited, so he encourages the young master to show his powers by summoning a meteorite, but our boy doesn't want to do that. Gowel makes it clear that he won't believe anything until he sees it with his eyes, so he suggests that Isaac revive the part of their household symbol that their lord likes a lot if he's really the saint as they say he is. The fifth son points to the old tree, claiming that it died because of the demon's dark mana, so he feels that Isaac should be able to revive the tree with ease if he's really the saint. As you can imagine, Riley considers this a very ridiculous test, and Isaac concludes that Melissa's children are a piece of work. Just then, our boy and his black cloud buddy sense something that catches their attention, so he tosses Whisper over there to go handle it. Riley reminds his brother that the tree has been dead for over 70 years, so he doesn't get what the guy would even expect a child that can't even speak yet to do about it. The argument is cut short when they suddenly turn to see that the holy tree that was just dead suddenly came back to life. Gowel can't believe his eyes because this is the same tree that just kept dying even after they used healing and purification magic. While he's still in shock, our boy just smirks confidently because it was truly nothing for him. It turns out that he sent Whisper to go and suck up all the mana that was keeping the tree dead. The other knights are equally baffled by the situation, so they ask Sir Riley what he did to the tree, and he admits that he didn't do anything, so they conclude that Lord Isaac is the one responsible. Surprisingly, Gowel still refuses to believe that the kid is the saint. He reminds them that nobody in this house has been able to do anything about the tree, so he doesn't think the baby could have done anything. With this in mind, he concludes that someone else must have helped him, but nobody even cares what he thinks anymore. While he's busy being a hater, the other knights start praising the kid again. Gowel gets annoyed and accuses Riley of being responsible. He feels that the guy got the help of the saintess and made it look like the baby did it. Gowel starts to lose his shit and Riley keeps denying it, but the fifth son is convinced that they're using tricks on him. Riley points out how it's practically impossible for him to have met the saintess, and his tension keeps rising. Our boy starts to think that Melissa should focus more on her household instead of vanquishing demons. Taking a closer look at the fifth son, Isaac notices that he doesn't really look like Melissa. If anything, he's Riley's half-brother because he looks a lot like that bastard Pope. Gowel finally loses it, furious that Riley brought the boy here as the next saint candidate when he knows that they already have a candidate in the house. Our boy had no idea that there were other candidates in the family and figures that Gowel must already have a favorite. Whisper finds this all really exciting, so he encourages Isaac to compete with the other candidate. But our boy is more worried that the other candidate might be very wicked if Gowel is the one backing him up. Riley responds to his brother's rant, suggesting that Gowel leave Isaac alone since he's the son of their eldest brother and also has the right to lead this house. The fifth son almost feels insulted by this because he has no intention of letting the son of his cowardly first brother who ran away lead them. At this point, our boy starts to realize why he's being treated like an outcast when he hasn't even done anything wrong. Gowel didn't know that the baby was the son of the saintess until now, but he still isn't convinced that the child belongs to their brother. As far as he's concerned, the baby looks more like the saintess, and so he suggests selling Isaac off to continue their bloodline. Riley finally has enough of Gowl's nonsense, so he punches the guy right in the face. While things are getting even more heated, Isac seems to be enjoying the whole thing, especially since he's getting a lot of useful information. Riley pounces on his big brother, prepared to beat the shit out of him for spouting that nonsense, but the guards quickly step in to separate them. Seeing how chaotic the family is, our boy concludes that it's going to be really easy for him to take over. He's so excited about it, but Whisper just reminds him that he'll probably go down with the family since he's now one of them. His Black Cloud buddy suggests that he didn't think that far because his brain shrank to the size of a baby's and all he can do is tell Whisper to shut up. The scene shifts and we see that Isac has finally been introduced to the rest of the house, but they just seem disappointed that they've added yet another boy to the family. At this point, our boy concludes that nobody in this house is sane, but he hasn't even heard the worst yet. They call the Saintess a bitch for burdening them with another useless son, and while he's still in shock from this, the acting matriarch tells everyone to be quiet. She starts by telling Riley that they've all decided that the boy will be raised in the minor house. This woman is Henna Joshua, the Lord's second wife, and she is curious as to why Riley brought the child into their land. Isac notices that she's openly hostile and figures that she's the one who wants him in the annex. Gowl angrily chimes in, urging Riley to answer, and so Isac realizes that Henna is the rude boy's mother. Riley finally speaks up and starts by asking where his father is. Henna claims that he's out of town, and Riley admits that it's a shame, stating that the Lord should hear the news that his oldest grandson Isac revived the holy tree. Everyone is shocked to hear this, but Gowl quickly stands up to dismiss the claim, stating that was just a coincidence. As far as he's concerned, the prayers of the Joshua household must have finally taken effect. Others agree with this, refusing to believe that a child could have done it when their own patriarch couldn't. Henna chimes in as well, stating that there isn't even any evidence to prove that Isac revived the tree. Seeing how they all discredit him at the table, our boy is pissed, so he decides to give them the proof they're looking for. Without a second thought, he unleashes a huge display of power, and when they see the energy whirling all around the baby, they realize that it's the energy of the holy tree. And with that, we conclude the second episode of this manhwa. Let me know in the comments down below if you're enjoying the story so far. Of course, I'll get busy writing up the next script, so rest assured that you won't be waiting too long on future episodes. In any case, this is all from me for today. Until next time.